What up, Hyperchange? Welcome to another episode. Today we're talking about Nvidia. In the last 2 years, the market has completely repriced the company. The entire expectations and perception of what Nvidia is has slowly been changing, and it's gone from kind of boring PC gaming company to now at the forefront of artificial intelligence. This has fueled a massive rise in the shares, and it's not to say that this hasn't come with growth in the company. You know, revenue growth has been accelerating, earnings growth has been tremendous, and this was actually a request by Deco Rose. I don't know if I'm saying that right. One of our earliest viewers, like, shout out. They're getting into like all these exciting new industries based on this core technology that it's been used in PC gaming forever, and that's still their biggest market, and that's still a huge growth driver for the company. But now they're kind of expanding this competency into these new higher growth regions. That's what's getting the market excited. And so I wanted to make this episode to figure out, is the hype real? What do I think? I always look at leadership because I think that's one of the most important things that any company has. It's not on the balance sheet, but whoever's running your company, making the decisions, driving the innovation is probably the biggest factor that I look at and where I want to start my research. So in Nvidia, the CEO is a guy by the name of Jensen Huang, I believe. He's 54 years old. He founded the company in 1993. He's got degrees from Oregon, from Stanford. He worked at AMD, who's now ironically one of Nvidia's competitors. This guy has a stellar track record on Glassdoor, the company who rates CEOs based on what their employees think. He's number 2 in 2017. Elon Musk was only number 8 on the list. The more homework I did into him, the more and more I was impressed. And he is like kind of the visionary behind the innovation and behind the company's core technology. He's still with the company. As I said, he's only 54, so he probably has a ton of work ahead of him. How much does he own? According to this Forbes article published in late 2016, he owns about 4.2% of the company. That is huge. Nvidia actually won the contract to use its processors as the backbone of the artificial intelligence platform in Tesla's cars. So I think that's like a huge design win and makes me super bullish on their technology and shows to me like they do have something in the automotive business. Tesla's best-in-class self-driving capabilities are built on the backbone of Nvidia's tech. That's a really good sign. Now, let's dive into more of the financials about the company. Not crazy growth over the last 15 or 16 years. I've charted their revenue since 2001, or their fiscal year 2001, which ends January. Grown revenue consistently on this uptrend. You'll see they had like a slight dip in the last recession. Fiscal 17, this most recent year, was a huge breakout for the company. Revenue went from $5 billion to $6.9 billion. But I think on the flip side of that, it's also to note that in 16 years, the company's grown revenue about 10 times, which isn't like that crazy to me. The growth is there, it's consistent. Is it mind-boggling? No, not really. Taking a look at operating income, we can see the company has a really strong history of being able to consistently produce a profit, which I'm a big fan of. Additionally, I mean, they had 2 years where they weren't making money in 2009 and 10 after the Great Recession, so that's kind of understandable. A bunch of companies went through like cyclically depressed earnings in that period. But if you notice a huge jump in earnings this year to 1.9 billion from 700,000, that's more than a double, almost a triple in earnings in 1 year. It looks almost like a little bit of an anomaly to me, and this is going to be really interesting because investors purchasing the stock today are betting that not only will Nvidia be able to maintain that 1.9 billion earnings, but actually continue to grow it at the same pace, perhaps doubling or tripling in the very near term. For what it's worth, in Q1 of this year, they were able to grow revenue from 1.3 billion to 1.94 billion. So the company was able to grow revenue 48% in Q1 of this year. So if we're extrapolating what fiscal year 18 looks like, things are looking really strong. Earnings were up over 100% in Q1 this year, from 245 million to 554 million. That's 126% growth. Thus far this year, it looks like Nvidia is continuing this trend of ramping up earnings, ramping up revenue. Nvidia is trading at a market cap of 91 billion. So if we're looking at this fiscal 17 financials, revenue of 6.9 billion, that's a price sales multiple of 13 times. That is very, very pricey, especially for a chip company. I'm giving them a pass on this high price sales multiple though, because the operating earnings on this revenue have been incredible. They produced operating margins of 28% in fiscal 17, and that's why they were able to turn out of 6.9 billion in revenue, 1.9 billion in profits. And so if we look at the profit ratio on that 91 billion market cap, they're only trading about 48 times last year's operating income. And that doesn't look too crazy for a tech stock, especially if you think they're going to double earnings again this year, compress the ratio to the mid-20s, then we're getting to a pretty normalized valuation. But I think it's very important to note, you're expecting a doubling of earnings from fiscal 17. I really do not understand chip stocks well. I'm not comfortable with them. So I'm just always very skeptical of chip stocks and in general, things that I don't understand. Like I've never bought a microchip to integrate in a massive consumer electronic product. Like I'm not a CEO of Apple or of Tesla that's buying Nvidia's chips to integrate into my products. So I don't know the thought process of what goes on in their mind. I don't really know who the competition is. I don't know why Nvidia is that much better. That's why I'm a skeptic about Nvidia. I really don't like investing in companies I can't understand. And I think investors buying today at this $91 billion valuation are expecting mega growth in earnings. And I don't know how you could be so convinced in mega growth in earnings unless you really understood through and through the competitive market positioning of all of Nvidia's products. And for that, you'd have to be an expert in the micro semiconductor industry, which I'm not. If you are, I think you might have an edge here and be able to understand whether Nvidia is going to be able to continue this trend. Will their domination in the auto market lead to, tripling of earnings and several billion in profit in a couple years? If so, then the stock's probably a really good buy. Anyway, that brings me to another point, which is much of this hype has been the fact that they're leading this drive towards artificial intelligence, and especially in self-driving cars. And now they have a key design win in Teslas, which I think cannot be understated. And even if the revenue from that you think is not going to be huge, I think what it says about Nvidia's technology and the potential for them to gain similar contracts with every other automaker is very bullish. Auto sales are still only about 7.2% of revenue, and in fact are not the company's biggest growth driver. In fact, in absolute terms, the gaming division produced more than half of Nvidia's growth. The auto market isn't even number 2 behind gaming. We have data centers, which was actually a smaller business than the auto business just 8 quarters ago, is now dwarfing it and almost triple the size. So the real growth driver for Nvidia has been data centers. And partially, I don't know too much about this, but there's some rumors that Nvidia is starting to cater part of its chips for the cryptocurrency mining market, which I think is a fascinating space for them to get into. I'm very bullish on cryptocurrencies. We made a Moonshot Monday about why PayPal should buy Coinbase to get into this field. We're going to make a lot more Bitcoin crypto videos, so stay tuned on that. But I'm very bullish that Nvidia has exposure to that trend. I don't know if that's what's driving the growth in the data center revenue, but if you look at this chart, I just think it's fascinating to note that the auto business seems to get all the hype, but in reality, the data center business is really driving mega growth and has become a much bigger piece of the story in just 8 quarters than the auto business has. That being said, both pieces of this revenue are growing much faster than Nvidia's overall revenue, so over time, both of these will become a bigger and bigger slice of the pie of Nvidia's total sales. To sum it up, I'm still doing research on Nvidia, still trying to learn about the company, understand what they do, but what I've learned so far is that I'm very impressed with the CEO. I think he's a visionary. I think he's going to continue to innovate and create industry-leading products that will drive shareholder value, revenue, and earnings for years to come, and he's only 54, so I'm very bullish on that situation. The second point is, though, Nvidia's valuation, to me, does not produce the adequate risk reward for me to want to get into it. But a big piece of that is me not understanding their business and just not being convinced that they can grow earnings from $1.9 billion last year to $4 or $5 billion in the very near term, which is what I think they need to support this $91 billion valuation and still offer you upside. But that being said, if they continue to lead the data center and auto markets, and they continue to kind of keep their monopoly in the gaming market, this has huge potential. This could be one of the backbones of the artificial intelligence economy, of the self-driving cars economy that is coming in 5 or 10 years. And so if you really believe in that long-term vision, I think this is a really fascinating way to play it. When I went into this, I was very skeptical of Nvidia. I was like, people are way overhyping this. They have a design win with Tesla. They had a couple good quarters. It's just way overhyped. But when I got into it, the 15-year track record of growth, of consistent earnings, they paid a growing dividend, they bought back stock to neutralize dilution, they have a bunch of shareholder-friendly policies in place. I'm more convinced that this is legit and that the company is very legit. I'm just not convinced that the valuation makes sense at these levels. Anyway, that's Hyperchange. I'm still researching the company, learning all I can. I'd love to get comments. What do you guys think? If you have articles about what Nvidia is doing in cryptocurrency or the self-driving vehicle market, let me read them. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a stock that you want me to look at and analyze, let me know in the comments. I'll try and get to them all. Thanks again for watching. That's Hyperchange. See you guys next time. Peace.